Alright guys, this is part 2 of Dwarfspider versus Impulse on the Shakuras Plateau. We just saw the last of Dwarfspider's opening Reapers go down right there, and Impulse is going into a very defensive against Reapers kind of stance. It looks like he's really... I'm not sure if this is an overreaction. I guess it's really not because he only put 2 tanks up there. But I don't think... I couldn't see Dwarfspider going for anything really major in the Reaper category again. And Dwarfspider is actually getting supply blocked pretty much every time he wants to build another round of units, because this is just so many racks pumping units. This is 11 barracks. So he needs like 2 SCVs just constantly producing supply depots to keep up with the amount of supply that he's gaining. He's also going up to 2 starport, and one of them, at least, is getting a reactor, so it does look like he's going for medevacs, probably to go with his very, very heavy bio force. He's also double upgrading all of his bio upgrades, so he has both Terran Infantry 1 and Terran Infantry Weapons 1, which is a very strong thing, and he's double expanding too. He just has complete map control right now. Those Reapers gave him so much map control, plus the fact that Impulse is going for tanks. I mean, if Dwarfspider had these 2 Xel'Naga towers, he would be set. I mean, he could take these 2 expansions and not really have to worry about any, amazing amount of pressure, because he could see it coming, and if he could beat it out, he would be perfectly fine. But it does look like he's going to be content with 4 bases for now. He's also... It would appear that he's going for quadruple medevac production, but he could also just be going for double medevacing, double Viking production to try to keep air control. But Impulse does have a lot more Vikings already out than Dwarfspider would have. Impulse is also going for 6 barracks right here, and it looks like he doesn't have any plans of adding on any add-ons to them just due to their positioning. So it looks like he's just going to be pumping 6 Marines out of these racks. I don't think he's going to be going for reactors or anything on those. He is getting tech labs now on these racks, so it does look like he's going to be going for a heavy Marine tank play with a side of Marauders. Or a very, very slim side of Marauders, but definitely mostly tanks. And Dwarfspider has the definite upgrade advantage, plus he's going for another 9 Reapers. Not sure how much I agree with this. I mean, he already did the damage with the Reapers, and Impulse is pretty well set up for this. I mean, if Dwarfspider really wants to get damage done, I would send the Reapers in along with a Marauder drop, and I would drop the Marauders here, and then I would just jump the Reapers up this cliff, have them try to do damage with those Marauders, and oh, it looks like Impulse's expansion just got sniped up here by a Marauder kill squad for 0 losses. Impulse is really just canned back in his base right now. I mean, if he tries to unsiege these tanks, I think it'll be game, because Dwarfspider is just, he's in such a lead with both his upgrade lead and the fact that Impulse both doesn't have any upgrades for his Marines or his Marauders. He's getting Combat Shield and Stimpack right now, but I mean, Dwarfspider's going up to 2-2 upgrades, and I don't even think that Impulse has an engineering bay, does he? No, he doesn't have an engineering bay, he doesn't have an armory. He really needs those upgrades going into the next portion of this game. And it looks like these Vikings are going to get out of there okay, but I'm actually surprised that Dwarfspider doesn't have more medevacs and more Vikings, because he does have this double starport production. I'm actually also kind of surprised that he's going for ship weapons and that he got double armory, considering the fact that his army is basically all bio. These Reapers aren't going to do much damage. They're just going to get cleaned up by those siege tanks. And actually, they did, what, 7 workers approximately right there, which isn't a horrible thing for these 9 Reapers, especially considering the fact that Impulse is held down in 2 bases. And yeah, 7 Reapers is going to be it, or 7 workers is going to be it for those Reapers, which, it's kind of the reason why I didn't want to see him go for that kind of Reaper play again, because he was already just so far ahead in the fact that he had that kind of map control. If he ran a couple of Marines down here and down here, He actually has an SCP down here to scout out any possible expansions going down. And I mean, really, Impulse, the only base he can take is this one, which he's actually long distance mining from. And, you know, Dwarfspider just has an insane trust fund, plus an insane supply limit. Dwarfspider could lose his entire army and be able to replenish with full Marines with a side of Marauders, no problem, and that's just not a situation you want to be in when you're playing Terran versus Terran. It does look like Impulse is going to want to try to set up more forward defensive line. I'm not sure how well that's going to go for him, considering the fact that he doesn't really have a whole lot of vision. Ooh, and Dwarfspider is pushing into the worst spot. I would love to see Scan go down there. There's Stim, there's the Stim. But I think it's just too late. He lost so many units in the first round of tank walls, and if he pushes up into this section, there's not going to be a whole lot of survivors. It's definitely a good choice of when to pull back. Well done from Dwarfspider there. That was a pretty nice little push. He sniped off 4 tanks, not really for free, considering the fact that he lost actually a lot of units there. I think it was worth it, actually. Ooh, I would have liked to see him just snipe off that tank in that run, but instead I think he's going to lose his entire force right now, just trying to trade as many tanks as he possibly can, which, again, isn't that much. I mean, we have a 17 kill tank, a 14 kill tank, a 7 kill tank. That's a lot of kills for tanks. That just means that these tanks have already paid for themselves. Even if they don't make it any further than this, they are well paid for themselves. And it does look like Impulse is lifting off his main, which isn't actually mined out. That's a surprise. I am fairly surprised that he left an unmined out base to try to take this base. I'm also surprised that he has so much energy on both of his command centers, actually. Oh, there we go. Now is the mass muling. 5 mules. And, yeah, Dwarfspider is just at a ridiculous income lead in comparison to Impulse. He's on 4 bases. He's only building bio, too. I actually like this choice if you're going against somebody that is very heavily into the mech, because if you go for that kind of straight bio play, you can completely deny expansions, because he can't push into you. You can't really push into him, but that's less dangerous, because you can just get up to that point where you're kind of playing it like a Sauron Zerg, where you can just send in wave after wave after wave of units and just let them die to tanks, and it just doesn't matter, because you're just going to overrun him in the end. That, plus the fact that he's on such an insane upgrade lead. He's getting Terran Infantry armor level 3 and Terran Infantry weapons level 3, along with ship weapons level 2 and ship plating level 2. That's just going to play a huge... It's just going to change this game drastically. I'm surprised that he's not going for these tank upgrades. And I'm not sure if Impulse is going to be able to hold this. He might lose this expansion. I'd be surprised if he doesn't, actually. But there it goes. And, you know, he still can't push in there, so Impulse is still holding his own over here, but it's just not going to be enough. Especially considering the fact that, I mean, this is just a ridiculous amount of income and reproduction. And it does look like we are finally going to see the first mech unit of the game out of Dwarfspider in Blue Flame Hellions. You know, especially if your opponent's going for such a heavy marine play like this, I actually like that. I would like it to see him drop another factory and put reactors on both of these factories once the Blue Flame upgrade finishes. And then just start cranking out those Hellions to take out those Marines and even draw tank fire a little bit so that his Marauders can get into position to really just knock those tanks down. Because, I mean, Marauders do a bonus, they do double damage to Armored, which is a very high amount of damage, especially when they fire as fast as they do once they get stimmed. Yeah, Dwarfspider is in a very commanding position for this game. Both of his main refineries are mined out, but, I mean, gas isn't really the main resource he's cranking off of right now. The only real heavy on the gas units that he's making are these Vikings and the Medivacs. both of which are actually, his Vikings are going to have level 3 weapons pretty soon, and his infantry is going to have level 3 weapons and level 3 armor, and as soon as that happens, he can basically just push and completely wipe Impulse off the map, because that's just, it's disgusting. It does look like Impulse is going for a bit of cute Viking play right now, trying to snap off a couple of tech labs, but he's not going to be able to do enough damage to this production, plus the fact that Dwarfspider has Vikings of his own that are such better upgraded. I mean, Impulse is going to be able to snap off, what, 2 tech labs there for a Viking, which is kind of a fair trade. He is going to have to stop producing off of these barracks for a couple seconds to get tech labs back on them, but, you know, it's... Dwarfspider has won this game, essentially. Oh no, Impulse is actually moving out right into Dwarfspider. His tanks are besieged fast enough. This is a favorable position for Impulse. It would have been even more favorable if he had just tried to hold his marine line right there, and just let them cover for the tanks as the tanks came in. But yeah, Dwarfspider has won this game against Impulse. This game is essentially just over. There's not a whole lot that Impulse can do right now. He's trying to pull SCVs off the line to save us, and actually, Dwarfspider is retreating with all of his air units, which is an interesting choice. But yeah, Impulse isn't going to be able to do anything to this, especially with Dwarfspider reinforcing so much faster with 10 Marauders, and Impulse complementing very nicely Dwarfspider on his push. Dwarfspider saying thanks. And, well, this is actually, I think, this is Impulse's last CC, so yeah, these SCVs all stopped mining. And so that means that Impulse is at 0. Ooh, and all these trapped Marines, but they're 0/0 upgrades. You know, 3/3 Marauders are just going to be able to devastate anything that comes out of this. Yeah, it was kind of crazy. And yeah, all these Marauders, all he needs to do is push out and win right now. I'm not sure what else I can say. I mean, Impulse, if he was going to go for that kind of heavy mech play, he really needed those upgrades to fight off the bio. He needed to have the 3 attack upgrades on those tanks, and he would have just been able to start wiping Marines off the map with his tanks. It would have been nothing. Absolutely nothing. And Dwarfspider is actually building three command centers, essentially, for no reason. And Impulse, I think, is bluffing a little bit there with BCs on the way, because I think this is only starport and it's reactored. Yeah, I don't see a fusion core. I don't know what he's talking about with BCs on the way. That was a pretty obvious bluff, especially considering the fact that I wouldn't really do all that much. It would just make Dwarfspider make more better Marines than Impulse had. And Impulse is going to engage right into basically a death trap because he doesn't have any medevacs to get him out of here. And I think that's essentially going to be game as this giant Marauder kill squad just wipes Impulse's last remnants of an army off the map. Impulse doesn't even really have enough money to... Oh, there we go. Impulse has left the game. So anyway, guys, this was the third game This was the fourth game that iBoysters have brought you. The second TVT, actually, so I would like to see you Zerg and Protoss viewers get out there and send me some of your games, because I'm sure they're just as awesome. I mean, this was kind of just a shellacking once you got past the point where he ran into that siege line and died. As soon as he got those 3/3 upgrades up, it was over. And if you guys do notice, my voice is a bit off today. I am feeling a little sick, but that won't stop me from bringing you your lovely StarCraft 2 content. Thank you to Dwarfspider for sending in this game. It really showed just the power behind meching as Terran, especially, you know, against an enemy that goes for kind of a biomech play against your straight up bio, especially if you get the ridiculous upgrades, you know, 3/3.